I want to start by asking you a question. Are you ready? Woolly mammoths, which went extinct tens of thousands of years ago and became a symbol of the Ice Age, do you think they could really come back? According to scientists, this is not just an idea, but something that could happen within the next few years. Yes, you heard that right. This is no longer a science fiction scenario. There are people today who say this can actually be done. And it is not just one person. There is even a company founded specifically for this purpose, called Colossal Biosciences. In other words, some people seriously believe in this, and their goal is as big as it gets, to bring woolly mammoths back to the Siberian plains after thousands of years. And it is not only about mammoths. It is also claimed that the Tasmanian tiger, the dodo bird, and many other creatures wiped out by humans could be brought back to life. But is this really possible? And perhaps the real question we should be asking is this: even if it is possible, should we do it? Right now, as you are watching this video, an average of 3 species go extinct every hour around the world. Yes, right now. As humanity, we have pushed approximately 1 million species to the edge of extinction. And among these lost species, there are some that have become symbols, not only in biology textbooks, but also in the conscience of humanity. When most people think of extinction, the first thing that comes to mind is mammoths, but in fact the real symbol is a bird, the dodo. For many years, the dodo bird was thought to be a creature from fairy tales like dragons or unicorns. Until in 1598, Dutch sailors stepped onto an island in the Indian Ocean. On this island, they encountered a strange but cute bird that could not fly, could not run fast, and did not fear humans because it had never seen them before. What happened next is not hard to guess. Dodos were easily hunted. The pigs, rats, and goats that the sailors brought with them destroyed their eggs. And within just a few decades, the dodo bird was completely wiped out. It went extinct due to human impact. The story of mammoths, however, is a bit more complex. The last mammoths on Earth lived about 3,700 years ago. Humans existed at that time, and in fact, the pyramids were being built in Egypt right around then. But we cannot explain the extinction of mammoths simply by saying humans hunted them, and that was it. Because when scientists examined the DNA of the last mammoths, they noticed something very interesting. Their genomes contained breaks, missing pieces, and damaged genes. In science, this is called mutational meltdown. In other words, the species had gradually collapsed within its own genetic structure and had become unable to survive. But the main issue in this video is not why mammoths went extinct. The real issue is this: can they come back? And here we encounter a new and somewhat unsettling concept: de-extinction. That is the idea of bringing extinct species back to life using genetic technologies. One of the most important figures in this field is biology professor Beth Shapiro. She even explains this topic in detail in her book titled How to Clone a Mammoth. At this point, Jurassic Park might come to mind. DNA taken from a mosquito, added to a frog, and then boom. Dinosaurs are back. It is a great movie, but in real life, things do not work that way. Because DNA has a lifespan. Its half-life is about 521 years. Even under the best conditions, it completely breaks down within a few million years. Dinosaurs went extinct 65 million years ago. So dinosaurs, at least for now, are nothing more than a big dream. But the situation is different for mammoths. Because they lived much more recently. In fact, in some regions, their remains are preserved so well that they look as if they died just yesterday. That is why scientists are able to work with mammoths. One of the most interesting examples of this is Pleistocene Park in Yakutia. This is an area of about 20 square kilometers, founded by a father and son. Their goal is not to entertain tourists. Their goal is to revive the Ice Age ecosystem. Horses, deer, camels, oxen, and even American bison are brought into the park. These animals trample the snow, allowing the soil to receive more sunlight. And by turning the plants they eat into fertilizer, they enrich the soil. So what happens as a result? Areas that were once covered with mud and moss gradually begin to turn green again. And scientists ask the following question. If these animals can do this, what could mammoths do? What could This is where genetic engineering comes into play. Mammoths and elephants, especially Asian elephants, are incredibly close relatives genetically. About 99% of their DNA is the same. Using a genetic tool called CRISPR, scientists cut certain genes in elephant DNA and replace them with mammoth genes. Traits such as cold resistance, a thick fat layer, and woolly fur are added one by one. In fact, a living, genetically engineered mammoth cell has already been produced in a laboratory. In one experiment, only 3 genes were changed, and it was observed that elephant blood cells had an increased ability to carry oxygen in cold conditions. One of the biggest names behind these studies is George Church, one of the legends of genomic science. He is also one of the founders of the company Colossal. And now, we come to the hardest question. Let us say we succeed. A mammoth is born. But will this creature be exactly the same as the original mammoth? No. It will be more like an elephant-mammoth hybrid. We do not fully know what consequences this would have on the ecosystem. But on the other hand, there is this argument. Thanks to these technologies, we could save endangered elephants. We could even revive certain ecosystems in the fight against the climate crisis. We have almost moved past the question of, can we do it? The real question is this: if we can do it, should we? There is no clear answer to this, but there is one very clear fact. Humanity is standing on the threshold of a power that can bring back the creatures it once destroyed. And how we choose to use this power will shape our future. Thank you for joining us.